am joined today by General Kenneth Hara. You might know him. He's a regular face in all of the press conferences in our response to COVID-19. Of course, he's the Adjutant General for the state and overseeing our emergency response. Good to see you, General Hara.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, you know, we always hear about what the National Guard is doing, what you're doing in terms of trying to tackle this over the last month. Just give us an overview about how the visitors are being tracked, because that lately has been a big concern for our residents.
Visitors arriving from the continental United States or internationally, they fill out the agriculture form that we are all familiar with, because the key information is already there. And we thought that it would be too difficult to try to get a new form to the different carriers, especially the international carriers. So that form, the passengers get off, they bring their form, and they're met by an agent, and they turn that form in. And then the agent verifies the information. And then they're handed an additional form. It's called the, let me see, I got it right here, Order for Self-Quarantine. And that form was kind of in development, right? First, it was just the order of what the self-quarantine order meant. But we actually adapted it now. So we break it out line by line, and they have to initial by each of the orders and then sign at the end of the form. And then it's actually signed by the agent that worked with that individual. HDA has been helping us in tracking these individuals, but now we're going to actually, at the gate, when they're turn in this form after it's completed, they'll physically call and verify that this is in actuality where the person has a reservation. Once we verify that, the visitors depart the airport and should go directly to their lodging. And HTA has a call bank with several individuals that will call to verify that in fact is where they're staying. They also notify the place of lodging, so they call the hotel, let them know these passengers are arriving. And then what we started recently, maybe about a week ago, is also calling the residents.
Are you getting this feeling that people are complying? Because when we hear from residents, they're always complaining that, you know, we just saw these last two violators break quarantine. People are just kind of seeing these violations.
So I think on the resident side, you know, as you look throughout, most, if not all, almost all, I think are compliant, right? I believe the visitors that are coming in, the tourists, are not following the order. I mean, if they come here and if they're staying less than 14 days, it makes absolutely no sense for them to come here and just stay in a hotel. I had a conversation yesterday with the Deputy Chief of Police for Honolulu Police Department, asking him, hey, can we partner together with the Attorney General and maybe even with the National Guard and come up with a plan? And he's totally for it. So we're going to try to meet sometime next week to look at how we can do more enforcement out in the field. So there's a lot of things that we're doing. I think collectively, you'll see that the combination of enforcement along with the checks and some deterrent activities that we're doing will meet the requirement to try to prevent the tourists from being on the street.
Yeah, are there any opportunities to really track them more aggressively? I know in other countries we see people that actually put them in quarantine in hotels, like designated areas, right? Or you can track them with bracelets or things like that.
We wrote out a web-based program that, you know, the visitors have to physically log in and pre-register, and there's some information that assists us with tracking their whereabouts. That is supposed to morph into a phone application that'll make it easier for us to physically track them. But we did talk about possible, you know, bracelets or ankle bracelets, and we are planning rigorously now, looking at the possibility of doing mandatory quarantine at a designated hotel. And really, what got me concerned is the potential of Las Vegas opening up.
Yeah.
That again, so, you know, as you look through as the disease was spreading, everything was imported, right, due to travel. And then it was travel imported, then travel related, and then it became community spread. And now it's 100% community spread. So in reality, even those tourists that are coming in and sneaking out, they're not spreading the disease. Everything that we've seen is community spread. That's where the risk is. If they open up, if Las Vegas opens up, that's going to be, very, very dangerous for the state of Hawaii from my perspective. So I told them, we got to look hard at doing a mandatory quarantine of everyone, no exceptions. Essential workers coming to the state, residents coming into the state, tourists coming into the state, you will go to a mandated location and stay there to 14 days until you clear this quarantine. Be tested or screened by, medical practitioner and then released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about
that is
testing.
like the nuclear option, right? We're not there yet. I want an on-the-shelf plan that if, Governor Egan and I say, hey, yeah, the risk is too great for travel related or travel imported COVID-19, then at least I have that plan that we can execute possibly in a day.
The other thing too is tracing and testing and contact tracing. How aggressively are we doing that with arrivals? Because, I know we're not doing asymptomatic testing at this point, but are we at a point where we can do that with all our arrivals?
We're doing the temporal screening with the arrivals. And then if anyone has 100.4 degrees or higher, then they're met with a AMR physician that will screen that person and make a determination. Do we put them back on a plane and send them home? Do they get sent to a medical facility? Or is it, will allow them to go to their hotel, but their information will be passed to the Department of Health for further tracking?
Mm-hmm. So those are the options that you're doing now?
And we just revised the standard operating procedure maybe about 2 days ago. We're trying to get that finalized within, I would say, either today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do also is give that AMR doctor the ability to test, to swab the individual so they can be tested for the COVID-19.
Okay. And you mentioned this good point. A lot of other places are opening up or thinking of opening up, not just Vegas. If that happens, is there any way that we can stop non-essential travel? Or is there just this other option that you mentioned, which is we have to quarantine them?
So the bottom line answer is no, we don't have the ability legally to stop non-essential travel. We worked with the Federal Aviation Administration, and besides they saying it's against the law, it's impossible to enforce, at the airports out of the state of Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And that's why we implemented so many things, right, to try to deter non-essential travel to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. But again, when you talk about community spread, we talk about, family members that stay with family or friends that stay with friends. So how do we track those particular groups?
But those are the same thing. So they'll be called by Hawaii Tourism Authority. Like I said, we augmented them with some additional staffing. So now we have the ability to check on the residents as well.
Mm-hmm. Is your plan?
By and large, I say, like I said earlier, that by and large, our residents of the state of Hawaii are adhering to the stay-at-home orders, and they are wearing the PPE, engaging and doing the social distancing and the hygiene, washing your hands and, mm-hmm. and wiping down things. That's why we're able to get this to single digits, and we're almost zero, right, for transmission. It's because the majority of the people of Hawaii are doing the right thing. If everyone does it, we would be at zero.
And I'm sure you see all the reports on social media of other people that are on the beaches that are not social distancing. And essentially our residents are taking it into their own hands, mm-hmm. right? Trying to report it to law enforcement. What more can we do, I guess, at that point is just keep reporting?
Keep reporting is the best way. Maybe they can politely say, hey, you guys should be 6 feet apart, but I don't want them to get into some kind of conflict or, really get aggressive, right, and beating down on people that they think are tourists. The best is to report it. Just call 911.
911. Okay. Well, that's good advice. And I just wanted to give you a chance to address any other big concern that you're seeing out there and want to let our viewers know about it.
Well, the biggest concern is the economy, right? We cannot continue with the restrictions that we have. At some point, we need to start relaxing some of the policy restrictions. But how do we do that safely? And so that's something we really putting the majority of our planning effort on, identifying which businesses we feel comfortable with opening, and then providing them the guidelines that if you follow these guidelines, that we'll allow you to open. But related to that is ensuring that there's compliance. And then if there isn't compliance, we have, some way to do enforcement. So that it's really a comprehensive plan as we start slowly opening up.
Very good. And we are on Facebook Live with our KITV community, and we did have a few questions from people. I wanted to give them a chance to give get your take on it. There are private jets. This is a good question. I've heard this a lot, that are coming in, not only to Honolulu, but all over the islands. And how are you monitoring those? They're private jets that are coming in.
So they still need to file a flight plan, right? So again, that same Department of Transportation team is notified, and then a team is dispatched when they arrive. Because it's the same thing. They got to go through customs and everything else. So we identified that as a gap, and there was a plan in place to
There's particular people that are actually waiting for them and meeting them, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then for homeless, another conversation that we talk about is the homeless encampments and how we protect people that are around those communities as well.
I think the policy right now for the homeless is not to try to disperse them. Just ensuring that they are, meeting the social distancing, and then not getting them in congregate care type facilities, right? Because then if someone is sick, that's just going to rapidly spread it. So they're taking a case by case, but in reality, it's a partnership with Scott Murishige's leadership and then with the counties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very important. And finally, a lot of talk about RIMPAC and our military community, right? Not just the National Guard, but all of these other military groups that are going to be coming for this in July. Should we cancel it or should we not? I mean, there's that debate going on.
Yeah,
Can we handle it?
The decision is with United States Indo-Pacific Command, and more specifically, Pacific Fleet, Admiral Aquilino. And they are looking hard at different courses of action. The bottom line is, from what I was on a telephone conference with Governor Ige and Admiral Davidson, and they are looking hard at different courses of action, like I mentioned. And I don't want to get out with them, right, because they still haven't made a decision. And that decision will be in collaboration with the international partners that participate in the exercise. But the bottom line is what they're thinking. All I can say is there'll be absolutely no risk to the people of Hawaii from the course of action that I was briefed up on that they're considering.
Yeah, because usually it does bring a lot, you mentioned the economy, a lot of money into the economy. So losing that would be devastating. And also from a national security standpoint, we need those practices and those exercises.
And that's why, they really, really want to do the exercise, but there's a way to do it safely. But I'm concerned about the safety of the people of Hawaii, right? So if they need to cancel whatever their decision is, I don't think they'll cancel, but whatever the decision is, I have to be comfortable that the people of Hawaii will be safe.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, General Hara. It's always good to see you, and keep up the great work on trying to get all of these things done in this unprecedented times.
Thank you. Take care, Annalisa.
Take care. General Kenneth Hara there with the HIEMA joining us today.
Okay.
Don't go away. Good morning, Hawaii. We'll be right back.